Westernization. Sometimes we love it, sometimes we hate it. And sometimes it leaves us asking, why did they do this?
I am Kirby from Nintendo. In some ways, Kirby lost big. No big hair, no big muscles, no weapons, nothing. All Kirby's got is appetite.
The other day, I bought the Nintendo Switch Online expansion, which gave me access to a few Genesis games, and I saw Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. In all honesty, this was my first ever introduction to the Puyo series, and I played it once when I was a 7-year-old trying the Sonic Genesis games for the first time. And I remember I was so freaking confused. Why does Robotnik have his own game? And why isn't it something cool, like building robots? Why the hell are there beans? And why isn't this Robotnik from the video games? Why is this Robotnik from the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog? Now that one was the one that really confused me. It all made sense when I realized a few years later that the blueprint for this game was not original and that it was essentially a Sonic Puyo reskin. But even realizing that still left me confused. Not because they reskinned a Puyo game, now that part makes sense. Video game developers have pretty much been doing this from the beginning, like how Super Mario Bros. 2 in the US was just a reskin of Doki Doki Panic, or how Street Combat was a reskin of the first Ranma game. Why do they do this? Because the West hates anime! Or more specifically, localizers thought that Western audience wouldn't like the cute style that many of these Japanese video games tended to have, so they decided they have to make it look cool and awesome, because video games are cool and this is the 90s. It's ironic that this even happened to Sonic the Hedgehog, because Sonic's design was already supposed to be cool and appeal to the West, but no, he wasn't cool enough. He needs to have bigger brow ridges, mohawk-like spikes, and give him a big smirk. Oh, he already has one? It's not big enough! Make it bigger! But as I was saying, I know why they localized Puyo this way, but I was still confused. Not as a Puyo fan, but as a Sonic fan. The main appeal of this game is supposed to be that it's Sonic instead of Puyo. And sure, this game is called Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, but Robotnik is still the villain of this game, so why isn't Sonic in this game stopping Robotnik? Also, for some reason, all the enemies are based off of enemies seen in the first episode of The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Even the game over screen is based off of a scene from the first episode where Robotnik is putting a bounty on Sonic. One of my favorite things about the Puyo games are the in-between cutscenes and the banter between Arl and her opponents. And let me tell you, there is not a character more perfect for that role than this specific version of Sonic.
I am offering you the biggest reward in bounty hunter history. 1 billion Mobiums, alive or otherwise.
Question from the crowd?
What is it?
I'm worth way more than that.
So if Sonic is not the one going through the levels and fighting these robots, then who is? Why, who else but Carbuncle, of course. His name is Has-Bean. Has-Bean used to be one of the jollier beans in the village, until Dr. Robotnik changed him into a robot. Usually he prefers to clown around on the sidelines, but he hasn't forgotten his humble past. I always thought Carbuncle was somewhat of a strange name, but I don't even know what kind of name Has-Bean is. The story of this game is that Has-Bean's friends, who all live in Beanville, have been kidnapped by Robotnik, who is using his Mean Bean Machine to transform all the beans into robots. It's a decent enough premise. I'm assuming they did this so that they wouldn't have to change the little Carbuncle sprite here or make a Sonic sprite in general. But honestly, it still feels like wasted potential. Carbuncle, or I'm sorry, Has-Bean, doesn't do anything in this game. He doesn't even appear in the cutscenes at all. It's literally just robots saying they're generic, "Ah, you won't make it past me, I'm so strong." So yeah, if I'ma be honest, I don't really like this game that much. I can't necessarily criticize the gameplay since it's literally just normal Puyo battles, but everything else just feels like a boring version of the Puyo games. For one, the music just isn't as good. It does remix some of the songs used in the first game, but the original songs, which are the most frequently used, become pretty repetitive and stale after a while. And I guess I wasn't alone on this since some of the reviews do mention this. Two standout tracks from Puyo though, used in this game, is Satan's theme, which isn't used as the final boss theme, but is actually used as the danger theme of when the beans start to get too close to the top of the screen. This does make the match more intense, but I feel like it's wasted potential since it works way better as a final boss theme. Also, the main Puyo theme is used as the credits theme, which I thought was pretty funny because it sounds jank. Also, like I said earlier, the cutscenes are pretty lame. The fact that Has-Been isn't an actual character and there's no banter and it's just basic I'm gonna get you lines is pretty disappointing. The only real good thing I can say about this game is that its sprite work and animations are better than the first Puyo game. Oh, and the beans saying yippee when they pop is pretty amusing. Oh yeah, by the way, this game has a Game Gear version. It's basically just the same game, but compressed, because it's on this thing. This version of the game actually explains the story at the beginning, but there are no in-between cutscenes. And Has-Been isn't even here. I can't really speak on much else since I've never played it. One last note though, Mean Bean Machine did technically make a comeback in Sonic Mania as a boss fight. And honestly, even though I don't like this game, I still lost my mind when I saw this. It's a really cool reference, and they're actually using Satan's theme as a boss theme, and that's awesome! They even added Mean Bean Machine as a side mode. There are no cutscenes or anything though, just computer battles, but that's fine. But could you imagine if the Mania team just decided to make a mini sequel to Mean Bean Machine in their Sonic game? That'd have been crazy. In the end, Mean Bean Machine is a fine game. I personally don't like it because it lacks the charm of the Puyo games that I enjoy and doesn't have enough Sonic flair for me, but I can see why people who played this game are still really fond of it. Me, however, I'm more of a Kirby's Avalanche guy.
Alright, son, what's he look like?
Well, he was pink.
Caucasian?
No, pink.
And big, you saying?
Yeah, like a big marshmallow.
Yeah, what'd he do?
He made me and my friend play this game, Avalanche, and he'd dump all these little blobs on me. And the only way that I could survive was if I buried my buddy in boulders.
Oh, look, he's a cutie. Is this the guy?
Kirby's Avalanche, the chain reaction puzzle game, or try Kirby's Dream Course. It's Psycho Golf in 3D, only for Super NES.
Alright, son. Marshmallow?
I love Kirby, and I can't think of anyone who doesn't love Kirby. Audience, give it up for Kirby! Kirby's Avalanche is a reskin of Super Puyo Puyo, and unlike Mean Bean Machine, I never played this one. On July 21st, 2022, this game was finally re-released on the Nintendo Switch Online, so I decided to peep. And I was surprised, because I was expecting this to be another Mean Bean Machine situation, but this game actually managed to keep the spirit of the Puyo games. Help Kirby bury his opponents in a landslide victory. Basically, in this game, rather than chaining in order to dump junk Puyo onto the opponents, you are creating chains in order to create an avalanche effect on your opponent's screen, thus the name Kirby's Avalanche. Though in Europe, this game's called Kirby's Ghost Trap. I'm assuming this is because the clear Puyos somewhat resemble ghosts, though the box art still has the landslide slogan, and the plot's the same. Speaking of which, King DDD has sent out an invitation to the residents of Dreamland to participate in an avalanche competition, and so Kirby takes on the challenge and battles many of his previous opponents from the past until he finally makes it to King DDD for the Avalanche Cup. So why do I say this game maintains the spirit of Puyo? Well, for one, it's frickin' Kirby. One of the main appeals of Puyo games was how charming the characters and the aesthetic was. So if you were to reskin a Puyo game, there would be no better substitute than Kirby characters. So many of these characters are capable of looking both cute and cool at the same time, which is something that the Puyo series nails. And unlike Mean Bean Machine, this game does retain the banter and the cutscenes, making the dialogue in this game infinitely more interesting. On that note, one strange thing about this game is the fact that Kirby talks, like straight up speaks in full sentences. And if that wasn't strange enough, Kirby actually talks trash to his opponents. Like bro, look at how he treats Waddle Dee. Waddle Dee doesn't even want to play. He's literally just asking Kirby if he can walk him through the forest because he's scared, and Kirby's like, nah bro. And look at the little icon after he defeats him. He completely pummeled Waddle Dee for no reason. And then he faces Waddle Doo, and Waddle Doo is like, bro, you treated Waddle Dee with no respect. And Kirby's like, yeah, and? Sometimes the comebacks are warranted, like some people talk trash to him and he talks trash back. But it's funny that Kirby is even talking this way at all. Like bro, in this one, Wispy Woods is like, don't trip over my roots, it'd be bad for you. And Kirby's response is, I'd like to eat some apple pie right now. I find it interesting when he challenges Meta Knight because Meta Knight is like, on guard, and Kirby's like, bro, I don't have a sword. And Meta Knight's like, oh, okay, then let's just play Avalanche instead. This implies that this version of Kirby is like Puyo, where the characters have powers and such, but they can use Puyos to fight as well. Also, it's funny how out of all the characters, he's probably the nicest to King DDD. Like King DDD's like, good job for coming this far, but I'm gonna beat you and take the Avalanche Cup. And Kirby's just like, yeah, good luck to you too, man. I guess Kirby respects loyalty at least. It's really jarring to see Kirby speaking. He's supposed to be a baby and make noises and stuff. I'm guessing this decision came from the fact that Arl herself trash talks her opponents sometimes, and vice versa. Or this is genuinely how they wanted to portray Kirby in the West at the time, which is fine. Like I said, it helps keep the spirit of Puyo while also being a Kirby game. It makes this game a lot more entertaining, and I appreciate it as both a Puyo and Kirby spin-off. I think the funniest part about Kirby talking though is that MatPat unironically tried using Kirby's dialogue in this game as evidence that Kirby is evil.
Puzzle game Kirby's Avalanche, we actually get some of the best examples of how he interacts with his fellow creatures in these games, and his personality is not cute. Here's your interaction with him. Kirby, hi Waddle Dee, are you ready? Waddle Dee, can we just walk together? The forest scares me. Kirby, sorry, rules are rules. Here is a poor innocent creature scared in the woods, and Kirby responds with, too bad I...
So true, MatPat, so true. I think the worst part is that he acknowledges 5 seconds later that this game isn't canon and therefore shouldn't be used as evidence for Kirby's true nature, yet he still brings it up as evidence. I think he just wanted to talk about how much of a dick Kirby was in this game, which to be fair, that's why I'm making this video as well. I like the little voice clips that play before you face an opponent. They're kind of funny.
Waddle Dee.
Bronto Burt!
Waddle Doo.
In conclusion, fun game! I enjoy this one way more than Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. The characters in general are more charming and way easier to be attached to since they're actual enemies from the game and not one-off characters from a cartoon, as well as the fact that Kirby is an actual character who speaks to his opponents. It might be jarring, but I think it's fine for just this one game, and it helped keep the spirit of the series that this game was based on. I still appreciate both these games for existing though. I know both of these games did help introduce some people to the Puyo series, and it's fun to analyze and look back on them and see the efforts that localizers went to in order to make a foreign concept seem familiar to their respective audience. Nowadays, localizers don't really do stuff like this anymore, and the extent of localization is simply just translating stuff and occasionally removing stuff that may seem inappropriate. Which is fine. It's honestly better that way. But you know, stuff like this is interesting. It's fun to see things from the past like this that were normal back then, and it's kinda crazy that we're never gonna see stuff like this again. Anyways, thanks for watching. See ya!